What's going on, everybody? This has been a fun-filled day. I was just pinging the flock and I said, how's everything going so far? And they said they're learning nonstop. And that's for the flock who employs a lot of these advanced advertising and tracking systems. So that's cool. Everybody's learning. I'm really digging the scaling up. Version 2.0 is here and it's off to a great start. This is so fun. Y'all are about to have a blast. Patient Prism has been a partner of ours for, hey, Adelie, what's going on? Good to see you. Patient Prism has been a partner of ours for years. Amol lived 2 doors down from me. I moved to horse country, not to get away from him, but to get more walks in the countryside. And I'm here on the Beltline. I just did a beautiful 30-minute walk in the city. Amol, I miss living in the city. Y'all are going to have so much fun. Patient Prism is one of the most advanced lead call tracking systems out there, and we recommend it to all of our clients. So you guys are going to have a lot of fun. Amol's been leading the game with lots of AI innovations. You're going to hear about a lot of that. You're also going to hear from Yvonne, who's a wonderful client partner of ours and has done some really advanced stuff. And he's done some really big things at CTCA in the past and is now at Varsity. So you've got two heavy hitters here. I'm stoked to bring them on stage, if you will. Tune in. You're going to love this. It's critical. If you want advanced advertising, you have to have advanced lead tracking. And our sponsors at this conference enable that to happen. They're brilliant. They love healthcare. They know healthcare and they know the business side. Enjoy the next few minutes here with them.
Alex, thank you so much for having me. We're excited always to participate in the Cardinal Scaling Up Conference. This is our second year. And I'm going to spend some time with Yvonne to talk about same-store growth, leveraging AI. AI seems to be a big buzzword right now. Everybody and their grandmother now has an AI company. And we want to kind of circle it back. We want to talk about some real case studies and talk about our thinking around growth, not just about the technology itself, because at some point we've got to scale it back. Although we're scaling up, we got to scale it back and say, hey, how do we drive growth leveraging this technology? Because it is fundamental to what we need to do in 2025 to leverage AI to really help us understand growth. My name is Amol Nirgudkar. I'm the CEO of Patient Prism. Yvonne, I have here is the operating partner at Varsity Health Partners. And Yvonne, I've enjoyed so much working with you because you've made my life so much better. Sometimes harder, but better. You've given us some tough love, and appreciate you joining this because I think your perspective is just unbelievable. Has helped us unbelievably in building the right solution that solves problems.
Thanks, Amol. And just to say, you're making my life easier as well. And you're really sort of mutual. And this is mainly because, I've been working with Amol for the past, 8 months now. And we've made such a progress, not only on our end, but, on the Patient Prism side. I truly appreciate the fact that Amol and his team, especially the CTO, have been on top of the game and giving us really sort of opportunities in the sense of product features that would improve our go-to-market strategy, our performance marketing, and so on. So I'm happy to be here with you, Amol.
Yvonne, this is your slide that I borrowed or without your permission, and I want you to present it because I think it kind of begs the question of why this matters, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, this has been really sort of a debate for an extended period of time. And, I've been in the healthcare space for more than 7 or 8 years now, specific to marketing and patient intake, patient growth as well. And, throughout my career, I've always had this battle with, our CFOs, our CEOs, to really make a point of, hey, how are we actually driving patients? And usually when you sort of like look in the past, the mix of patients that are going to be, referred patients by physician was usually 90% of the total volume. Now we're seeing a huge shift where, every single patient in some shape or form are self-guided, right? So they want to understand better how they could find a better solution for whatever condition they have, and then what would be the right physician to do that. I honestly think in the past years we've seen, within the oncology space, being more of a commoditized service in the sense that you can actually get oncology services across the board, regardless of where you live. Traveling patients have sort of dwindled down. So healthcare is becoming really local, and being able to play in that local sandbox is going to be crucial, especially from a visibility as well as ability to attract and grow your patient portfolio. So, the digital channels, of course, have a huge component into this. Social, especially, growing by the day, is being a huge influencer of how patients behave. So that's kind of my spiel on this one, but marketing is becoming more and more important in healthcare as we speak.
I spoke to a big CMO for a very large group recently, and they said, you know what, Amol, we were in this referral business, so all our patients came from referrals. And then he said to me, although we are that, all roads are still leading us through marketing. Even the referral is coming through some marketing channel because the way patients behave these days. So absolutely crucial. This is one of my favorite slides because I think as you guys think about solutions, and AI especially. The one thing that I have learned from my own mistakes over the years building AI for the last 8 years is it's important for the solutions to provide you not just hindsight in a pretty format, right? Not just hindsight about visualizing data that happened, information, but in order to really drive same store growth, we have to understand in real time um, how information is converted into insight. And that insight then is converted into a decision. Eventually, that decision is converted into an action. And basically, the type of analytics that we are now able to deliver using AI are these inquisitive, predictive, prescriptive, and preemptive, right? And part of our evolution in thinking has been if we produce this data, if we produce these analytics in front of the right decision makers in real time, then we have given them something I'm going to talk about is early warning signals about how to fix something while it's getting broken or we just broke. Ivan, you talk a lot about these analytics, preemptive and prescriptive. I know you use a lot of our stuff to kind of make decisions in real time.
Well, let me say this, and I think this is kind of the key piece of this. So when you look at this kind of chart, right, I think when you look at the insights, descriptive analytics, inquisitive analytics, as well as predictive, there is a big chasm, or there used to be a big chasm between inquisitive and predictive analytics. This was mainly because inquisitive analytics and descriptive analytics are mainly driven by the fact that you have your own data and you don't need much to process that data to understand what happened in the past. I think what AI is unlocking these days is sort of like closing that chasm between inquisitive and predictive analytics and unlocks the pathway towards prescriptive analytics. And what prescriptive analytics ultimately means is that you're actually not taking only endogenous data, but exogenous data, structuring it in a way that would actually pave out the way of how you actually develop your future. And I think, this is kind of the unlock that, we are actually seeing with Patient Prism across all of our portfolio companies that are currently utilizing that solution.
And we're going to show some examples of that Ivan and I have worked on. I talk about digital transformation a lot in the context of AI, but here's what we're seeing. This was your ex-employer McKinsey, Ivan talked about the goal of digital transformation in the context of AI really is to improve the customer journey and lower costs, right? Whatever cost that means, lower patient acquisition costs for marketing, whatever that's happening. And in that process, we have to get alignment. Ivan talked about alignment is super important because sometimes alignment is different. When you go to a CFO, that their focus is very much on the P&L and the cost, and they want to understand ROI better. And there's an expectation that we need short-term revenue growth from the CMO, and And Ivan, you've done some good work in this alignment, right? Because we've got to get marketing to be a good profit center in the organization, and get the CEO and the CFO on board.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the core of this discussion is to really enable, the marketing leaders to quantify and put some quantum on, their spend in what does it actually get in return for the practice, the hospital, the company, or whatever the entity is. What I'm seeing is that, in the past couple of years, we're seeing more of that CFO, CMO alignment, which is sort of like where the rubber meets the road in the sense of setting expectations, right? It's always difficult to set expectations based only on hindsight, because the history is sort of a telltale sign of what's going to happen in the future. But at the same time, novel channels, novel strategies, novel tactics, we may not have sufficient data to be able to quantify a growth pattern that we would like to see to make the whole effort ROI positive. So ROI in marketing is always challenging, and I think where, again, Patient Prism comes is that connectivity between sort of like what your media investments actually look like versus what your EHR solution versus your RCM solution is basically seeing from a revenue collection perspective, as well as EBITDA, right? So as long as we can connect those two dots, I think that there is a good case for a CMO to make to a CFO and really sort of like unlock that ability of being able to spend in the relevant places.
Yeah, it's so important. And the way we thought about deploying AI in terms of driving growth is we went back and said, where does the patient journey, and mapping that patient journey was very important. We did it with Ivan, we did it with our clients. I'm like, where is it starting? Are we understanding lead quality, lead quantity, cost per click, cost per lead, cost per acquisition? And really having understanding of this was very important to us. Understanding whether a lead called or filled out a form or chatted with us, understanding are they scheduling an appointment, and then eventually, as they're going through the process, what I have seen done successfully at organizations is figuring out the associated, sometimes KPIs associated with each stages of the journey, and then having somebody accountable for that KPI to drive those KPIs to eventually drive the patient to treatment. And this has been the most powerful thing we've seen done to drive growth, because sometimes we think marketing is the problem, but sometimes it's operations and sales. And I'm going to quickly switch to the next slide, because this is where I think your input made a big difference, Ivan. Is we wanted to make sure AI kind of the conversational AI we built was that had components of marketing, sales, and operations, because I really believe growth stands at the intersections of marketing, sales, and ops, right? Marketing means, are you driving the right leads at the right cost into the funnel? Is sales converting them on the phone or inside the office? And then does operations have the ability to actually to see that patient, to see the customer that is wanting an appointment, or are we having issues around that? And that was the big epiphany after running this wrongly, because we thought initially it was only a sales enablement problem, but then we realized it's equally a marketing issue and it's an operations issue as well. Comments on that, Ivan?
Nothing much to add. I think where you're hitting a right point. And look, like I just want to kind of highlight like the importance of Patient Prism and the whole this cycle, right? And what Amol is kind of alluding to, right? So it is of crucial importance for marketing to understand the key levers that they could be pulling at the most granular level in their campaigns. Think of keywords, think of the ad placements and whatever else you may actually have going on, right? And be able to attribute that to a specific initiative, to a specific campaign, so you understand what is actually driving your revenue volume, right? I think that there is a big misconception in marketing that like any volume is good volume, right? And I've tried that across multiple hospital systems and realized after probably the second or third trial that volume is not always good, right? You can drive an enormous amount of volume. You can actually pay a lot of money to drive leads. But if those leads are lacking quality, are lacking pre-selection of some kind, that's going to actually drive your cost of acquisition to a point that, it's no longer attainable. So what Patient Prism actually does is enables you to look into your mid funnel or bottom of the funnel and really understand how much of your marketing campaigns are responsible for driving those sort of like bottom funnel volumes, and where most essentially can you cut away from, knowing that you will be losing leads, at the top level, at the top of the funnel, but you're still actually retaining the important leads at the end of the funnel, right? And we've done this exercise many, many times across our portcos. In most cases, we're seeing that Patient Prism enables us to cut the cost by almost 30%. And this actually yields almost the same amount of patients that have been attributed to marketing come through.
And that's a great point. And I think part of what it is the marketing piece is super important. The sales piece and the concept of this early warning signals came about, AI, because it analyzes data and analyzes unstructured data at scale and at speed. We're now able to deploy the what we call early warning signals, is detecting risk opportunities or changes in business before things go sideways. And I'm going to give some examples because Alex wanted me to share some examples of how we have worked with you in a case study of like, what is it, right? The first thing of an early warning signal that we launched was the idea that if a patient doesn't book an appointment, could we have a second chance to make that first impression? Could we understand what went wrong in that interaction within minutes, within 30 seconds rather, and then actually recover the patient, right? The full promise of AI today is really to understand what went wrong quickly so that we can actually fix it. And what we started seeing, especially with you guys and with our client base, is that if there was an outbound motion that went into place after somebody got that early warning signal, that early warning signal basically came right away. As soon as the patient hung up the phone at 9:06, the alert went out, the early warning signal went out. And then the signal looks like this. In the dental world, it looked like this. Patient wanted an appointment, wanted dentures, was worth 7,000. And basically, the agent did not give him all the information, did not understand Medicare Advantage plans, did not give him financing. And boom, all of a sudden, this early warning signal went to an outbound team that actually connected with that patient, gave them additional information, and brought back that patient at a 25% clip. And we've seen this happen in dental, we've seen this happen in optometry. To be able to really, this is a whole needle in the haystack issue. And AI allows us to like put that thing, I'm like, oh, here's what happened with this situation. And part of how you want to operationalize AI is to understand how to get these early warning signals in the right hands so that we can actually recover the revenue we just lost. And that's important. One of the big things, and this was in home services, one of the big things we worked with Ivan was understanding early warning signals around operations. And this was a big deal because operations sometimes, and this was, I've changed the names of the cities for privacy, but here's AI looking contextually and understanding are there operational hurdles why patients don't book an appointment. Scheduling means we have capacity concerns. Price means we have affordability concerns. Insurance is insurance. And these are super high early warning signals because what this tells me that in the Tampa office, I don't have a demand generation problem. I have a supply problem because I don't have enough providers. And I know you guys do a lot of work with these early warning signals to kind of staff up the right people and put the right butts in the right chairs, maybe expand hours, expand providers. A little commentary on that?
For me?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So look, many cases, right, where especially in some of our dentistry portfolios, what we've been seeing is that there are going to be times where we have capacity constraints, right? And those capacity constraints are not visible in real time as we speak, right? So in they're not necessarily visible without actually us going into in-depth analysis. What Patient Prism allows us to do is actually to filter for reasons not booked. And what that allows us to also understand is sort of like, hey, look, if we see that scheduling is a reason why people are not booking, that's a clear signal for us that that specific capacity, practice has capacity issues, and we should not necessarily put extra effort or extra investments to work through increasing the patient volume on those practices.
And that's important, right? Even insurance, sometimes you realize that you got people that are calling about Medicaid and you don't take Medicaid. That's a problem, right? Then your call center is being inundated with calls from Medicare. You can't schedule them. You're missing the calls that are out there that are high value patients. So understanding context is important around operations, because once you understand operational context, then you don't blame marketing by itself, or you don't blame the person answering the phone, because operationally, and what we've seen, guys, is about 35% of patients, sometimes 40% of patients, are not booking an appointment, not because of marketing didn't bring the right lead, not because the sales agent or the receptionist didn't do a good job, but it was because of operations. One of these things, right? Sometimes there was language barriers and so forth. And this is what we call early warning signals. And this is a live example of where the organization decided to make changes around, oh well, we're gonna add providers, we're gonna expand hours, we're gonna look at insurances and see what do we do about out of network coverages, how do we talk about pricing and then financing. Those are super important. um, I
Hey, Amol,
sorry, go ahead.
can I quickly, there's a question on the chat, and I just want to kind of tackle it. So Elizabeth is asking if the platform has auto triggers for alert task to key stakeholders to correct or adjust an issue. The answer is yes. So let me kind of put it this way. If there is a patient calling and there was a missed call for whatever reason by the call center, you get a trigger. You get an email, you get a text message, whatever you would desire. If there was an opportunity that basically was, hey, we need to re-engage with a specific patient, it's in real time. So you actually get a alert in whichever communication channel you prefer to actually get that level of clarity at a patient level. So the answer is yes. I think that in what Amol and Patient Prism are still like trying to figure out is how do you actually get cumulative alerts, meaning, hey, look, we're actually seeing a trend line rather than a specific patient. So in trend lines are important, especially in a multi-practice world. And I think that's coming up very soon.
Right. Absolutely. Because you want to know this, right? The idea behind these early warning signals is for you guys to decide what is important to you. Right? You want to know when I lose a high value lead, and you decide what the high value lead is, and then you design the rubric to provide all those high value leads to the right people so they can act upon it. Right. So it really is not an opinionated system. It's like you decide what data is important to you. Then you decide what stakeholders are going to get that data. And then you present it to them in real time on a dashboard, on a text message, or some mechanism, obviously that's HIPAA compliant, so that you don't have to worry about. And then so top management doesn't have to worry about it. The idea behind those evolution of analytics is to provide people the right middle management, the right tools to do it themselves, and not have everybody involved in the mix all the way from VP or COO and saying, "Oh my God, what do we do?" This is for them to do that. Ivan, you had done a little case study. The Cardinal folks wanted a case study on how you had done deployed AI technology with Patient Prism to really truly drive down the cost per booking, get the leads higher. Tell us a little bit about what this chart means.
Yeah, and there's slight formatting issue here, but I'll be happy to speak to it, right? So look, specific to one of our dental platforms, we had the challenge where, Cardinal and the practice itself, sorry, the platform itself, were slightly overinvested on keywords that did not necessarily drive conversions. And this is by no fault of anyone. It was really sort of like the point where Patient Prism had started collecting enough data for us to have, statistically significant understanding of how keywords are actually performing against Patient Prism conversions versus your sort of like top funnel conversions like call and form submissions. So this actually allowed us to really sort of like look into high performing versus low performing keywords along with high performing and low performing practices, right? And really decide which practice do we actually want to fully fund and where do we have those sort of like growth lever unlocks across the board versus practices that we don't, right? So in essence, what we've done, and this is really sort of like paid search kind of tactic, is looking at high converting keywords and if they have impression share that lost due to either ranking or budget. If we would lose ranking, if we would lose impression share on budget, that would be the point where I've encouraged the team to increase our spend on those keywords and decrease the spends on the keywords that we did not feel that are driving volumes. What that resulted into was a 72% growth month over month as soon as we actually made that change, to kind of like see that growth. On top of that, and I just also want to add this sort of tactic, right? Our platform also ran two types of systems. One was a telephony system, 4x4, as well as Patient Prism. And they had conflicting information on missed calls. So the 4x4, the telephony, which is more of a programmatic kind of way of tracking calls, was reporting about 12% missed calls. And, looking at industry benchmarks, we are close to that. Like we should have been probably closer to 8 or 10%. But 12% wasn't a concerning factor. Once we started looking into Patient Prism, we did see that about 40% of the calls were actually missed. Huge discrepancy, right? That basically means that we are spending our dollars with 40% inefficiency built in already. So what we've done was basically look through our, listen through the calls that were actually considered as and categorized as being missed on the Patient Prism side. And what we've realized, these are not hangups, right? These are not people hanging up. The reason why people were hanging up is because most of the population that actually called in was Spanish speaking, and we did not offer a Spanish speaking upfront greeting or IVR. And on top of that, we actually had a loop, a IVR loop that would basically go on in perpetuity until a person is being, picked up or they hang up. So we've changed that, and the effects of the 72% increase is also sort of like cumulatively expressed here. And this is basically looking at Q4 of 23 versus Q1 of 24.
We're at the end of time. We're going to be in our virtual rooms. I wanted to end the call with a little meme from um, from my favorite comedian Dave Chappelle, and the idea was like, as you guys think about AI and deploying AI in 2025 budgeting, and Dave didn't say this. I made this for Dave. It's like, all right, well, if you're thinking about AI technology, do you have insight? Do you understand why things are happening? And then do you have foresight on what to do? Part of what our collaboration with lots of private equity groups, including Varsity, has been that collaboration into like, we need to understand why things are happening the way they are, patient flow, understanding sales, marketing, ops, but then provide instantaneous recommendations in the form of early warning signals so that we can make change today. We don't have to wait till the end of the week, end of the month, end of the quarter, and then talk about, oh my God, why did we miss budget? And then we have to explain that to the board. That's the point of AI today. And I think if there's anything you guys can take from all of it is really, as you pick these ideas, just figure out what's important to you, and hopefully there's tools out there that are going to deliver you this insight and foresight to really drive same store growth for 2025 and beyond. With that in mind, I'm gonna basically stop on time. Appreciate you guys coming in. Appreciate Cardinal. Appreciate Yvonne for coming in and with your tremendous insight on this. And we're gonna be in our I think virtual room somewhere. I think somebody's gonna tell me how to go to that virtual room to answer any other questions. Thank you again for joining us. Have a great rest of your event here. Thank you, Cardinal, for putting on such an incredible show.